So in today's video, I'm going to discuss why you should learn Python, and this is especially targeted for engineering and science students who are looking for jobs. Now let us start with the typical university degree. Now when you enter a university to do one of these sci-tech majors, you will find that MATLAB is the language which rules the universities and technical institutes, and this is because MATLAB has a plethora of functions which are very well suited for a large number of numerical computations. For example, if you want to find roots of polynomials or functions, you can use roots or f0 respectively. If you are interested in solving systems of the form ax equal b, you can simply write x is a backslash b, and all these kind of very simple solutions are possible. Even if you want to solve differential equations, there are various functions which can help you solve these equations, provided you give the initial conditions for the problem. Now, of course, these facilities are also there in languages such as Python, but I think where MATLAB scores is that it has excellent figure and plot generating capability. And most engineering professors are primarily interested in looking at these plots to check the veracity of the various calculations the students have done. And also these plots are the ones which go into the various thesis, papers and reports which the students write during their stay in the university. You may also put these plots in research proposals. So in fact, I would say as far as academia is concerned, nobody really cares about your code. All they want to see are plots, and in fact we can say that typically a picture is worth 1,000 lines of code as far as academia is concerned. Now, in the industry, the language of communication is very different. They typically don't write out things in great length or create various papers and reports. Their language of communication is PowerPoint, slides, block diagrams which are presented in this PowerPoint slide, and also the code. They may have a code review, and also the code is the product which is shipped out by many engineering and scientific companies. So essentially there is a release date for this code, there is a beta version in some cases, and then the code is shipped out. So the product here is the code. Now most universities will encourage you to use MATLAB because their product is papers and documents such as thesis, reports. Now, MATLAB is actually quite expensive, but you are shielded from this fact because the university provides you MATLAB for free, and typically the cost of MATLAB is borne by the university, which in turn is getting this money either from tuition fees or from government or from the research grants which are brought in by the various professors. So actually these are paying for the MATLAB here. Now when you go to a private sector company, you may typically find that you do not have access to MATLAB. They would prefer to do their programming in a language which is free. So for example, you could have Python and C as the languages here. And this is especially the case of startups because they may not have the money to get MATLAB in many cases, so most would be using Python. Now of course, in my viewpoint, C is also a very good language because it is very fast compared to Python, but the problem with C is it is somewhat antisocial in its construct, and then people get scared of things such as pointers, and so a large number of people may not like to develop C code or maybe quite scared of working with C. Now what happens with this is that Python becomes especially useful, and then Python has developed various libraries such as NumPy and SciPy, and these libraries also provide many of the functions which are there in MATLAB, and the plotting tools also keep getting better. Now I would say that in fact in many university situations we do not teach the students this aspect, and when they graduate from a university they are thrown into a company system and then they have to quickly pick up Python. Now you do not need to have this big culture shock at this point. If you have spent some time and effort in learning Python while you have been doing your stuff in MATLAB, then you may find it quite simple to actually transition to the corporate world setting. Now in many cases your professors may not encourage you to do that because, as I mentioned before, professors do not care about the language with which you program your problems or your research work. They only care about the output because they are only interested in the fundamental questions and the solutions to these fundamental questions, and they are interested in concepts. That is what universities try to do. They are not so much interested in products. But when you go to companies, there are real issues involved, such as the cost of a particular language, the support fees you have to pay each year, and so on. And also real-time aspects may be involved, in which case C would be very useful because C is much faster than Python. So again, I would say that from a job perspective, Python is probably the best language to learn when you are in college, because it will provide you with a plethora of options, not only in the sci-tech sector, but also in the programming sector, much beyond this, including in finance, where Python is being used quite substantially. Now there are some votaries of a new programming language, or I would say relatively new programming language, known as Julia, which has been specifically developed for scientific and technical programming. And of course Julia is also a good language, and it has a capability of expressing things more in terms of equations. But I would say Julia is a language which should be learned as a follow-on language after you have learned Python, because the community in Julia is very small. And again, Julia has the same problem which MATLAB has, though it is free relative to MATLAB, is that the concentration is largely in universities, research institutes, technology institutes, and so on. And therefore, you do not have enough people in the corporate world using Julia. So again, that is something which may change in the future, but at least at the present time, Python has very good support structure, very good libraries, and especially in the field of data science, where a plethora of different type of people come and work in this field. And these may not all be tech people. These may be also people from slightly different professions. Python is a lingua franca which can help you to communicate with all these people. So again, these were some concepts I had for you today about why you should learn the Python programming language. It's very easy to learn. There are many tools on the web to learn it. There is an official Python website which has some tutorials, so you can pick up this language, and then I'm sure it will help you in your career. And if possible, you can write some code during your university time in the programming language. If you can convince your professor that you want to do a particular project in Python, he would not really care that you are using Python or MATLAB. But the advantage is that you would have a project in your resume in which you have used Python. And this is something which companies would like, because companies essentially don't want to just see that you know Python, because that anybody can claim, and he may be able to know a few aspects and a few simple programs. But then if you have done a project in a particular language, that takes this training to a completely different level. So if you can do any of your engineering or scientific projects in Python, then this will certainly be a selling point as far as you are concerned as a candidate for a job. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned to my channel for more such videos. Thank you very much.